Snow White and the Kind Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony. Everyone in the kingdom loved her, except for her stepmother, the queen, who was very jealous of Snow White's beauty. Every day, the queen would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." But one day, the mirror said, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." This made the queen very angry, and she decided to get rid of Snow White. The queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and leave her there. The huntsman felt sorry for Snow White and couldn't harm her. "Run away, dear princess, and never come back," he told her. Snow White ran through the forest, scared and alone, until she found a small cottage. She knocked on the door, but no one answered, so she went inside. The cottage was very small with 7 tiny beds. Snow White was so tired that she lay down on the beds and fell asleep. Later that evening, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage came home. They found Snow White asleep and were surprised to see her. "Who is this girl?" they wondered. When Snow White woke up, she told them her sad story. The Kind Dwarfs named Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey decided to let her stay with them. "You can stay with us if you help keep the house clean and cook for us," said Doc, the leader of the dwarfs. Snow White was very happy living with the dwarfs. She loved helping them, and they loved her. Every morning, the dwarfs went to work in the mines, and Snow White stayed home to take care of the house. She would cook delicious meals, clean the house, and make everything neat and tidy. One day, the queen found out from her magic mirror that Snow White was still alive and living with the dwarfs. The queen was very angry and decided to take matters into her own hands. She disguised herself as an old woman and went to the dwarf's cottage with a basket of poisoned apples. Snow White was alone at home when the old woman knocked on the door. "Would you like to buy an apple, dear?" the old woman asked. Snow White, not knowing it was the queen in disguise, took an apple and thanked the old woman. She took a bite and immediately fell to the ground, as if she were dead. When the dwarfs came home, they found Snow White lying on the floor. They were very sad and didn't know what to do. They laid her in a glass coffin and watched over her day and night. They hoped she would wake up one day. Many days passed, and one day a handsome prince came to the forest. He saw Snow White in the glass coffin and fell in love with her. He kissed her gently, and to everyone's surprise, Snow White woke up. The poisoned apple had lost its power, and Snow White was alive again. The prince asked Snow White to marry him, and she said yes. The dwarfs were very happy for her. Snow White and the prince returned to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after. The evil queen, upon hearing that Snow White was alive and well, was so angry that she ran away from the kingdom and was never seen again. Snow White and the Kind Dwarfs remained good friends. She often visited them, and they had many happy times together. The dwarfs were always grateful for Snow White's kindness and care. Snow White never forgot the kindness of the dwarfs. She invited them to the castle for big feasts, and they would share stories and laugh together. Snow White would always remind them how much their friendship meant to her, and the dwarfs felt the same way. The dwarfs also taught Snow White many things. They showed her how to find hidden gems in the mountains and told her stories about the forest creatures. Snow White loved learning from them and always listened carefully to their wise words. One summer day, the dwarfs took Snow White to a secret meadow full of wildflowers. They picked flowers together and made crowns to wear on their heads. Snow White felt so happy and loved in that beautiful place with her dear friends. Another time, the dwarfs and Snow White went on a picnic near a sparkling river. They played games, sang songs, and enjoyed delicious food. The forest animals came to join them, and it felt like a magical day full of joy and laughter. Years went by, and Snow White and the prince had children of their own. The children loved visiting the dwarfs and hearing their stories. Snow White would tell her children how the Kind Dwarfs saved her and how important it is to be kind and helpful to others. The story of Snow White and the Kind Dwarfs was told throughout the kingdom, and everyone admired their bravery and kindness. Snow White became known not just for her beauty, but for her gentle heart and loving nature. Moral of the story: the story of Snow White and the Kind Dwarfs teaches us the importance of kindness and friendship. Snow White's kind heart and gentle nature won her our love and friendship. Even in difficult times, her kindness was rewarded with our help and support. We learn that being kind to others and having good friends can help us overcome any challenge.